Hi guys, and welcome to my experimental Let's Play of Dead Secret. This is a virtual reality game that I played on the Oculus Rift, and I decided to record myself playing it to see how feasible it was to have a VR Let's Play. Now the game itself is a story-driven whodunit kind of mystery. It has a slight horror vibe, but it really isn't a horror or scary game. Although there are some moments that, because it's virtual reality, really are quite startling and a little intense. Virtual reality definitely makes a huge difference in this kind of a game by, well, basically really making it feel a lot more real. I was not totally sure whether or not I was going to release this particular Let's Play. It was more for my own benefit, so I could see what the problems were with recording virtual reality for a Let's Play, and there were quite a few, and also to see how it looks, whether it's a watchable experience, because of course it's one thing to play virtual reality, which is an extremely immersive experience, and it is another thing to watch someone do it, because in actual fact, because of the way the camera moves, it can be an unimmersive experience for the viewer. Let me say straight away, this is not one of the Let's Plays I think of as being one of my best. It is probably the lowest quality in all aspects actually, and you should treat it that way if you want to watch it. And I'm only releasing it because I actually want some feedback on a few issues. Now there were some technical issues that I had to try and overcome. For example, the audio. I used the microphone in the Oculus Rift and it's not good. In fact, the first half hour I recorded, I had the gain set incorrectly and it was very muffled and there was quite a bit of distortion. I fixed that for the rest of the episodes, but it was never good. However, I have actually managed to mess around and find a solution with a lapel mic I bought, and I've managed to wire it up to one of the machines to get quite good quality audio for the microphone. It's not professional quality, it's not as good as this microphone that you're listening to now, but it's a lot better than the one I did in the Let's Play. So that's one side that I've already managed to find a way to improve if I go forward and do more virtual reality Let's Plays. Indeed, if I decide that virtual reality Let's Plays are going to be a regular thing on my channel, I will probably invest in a far higher quality lapel mic, something that will give far better audio for the commentary. Other issues that I was testing out and trying to get used to were things like the wires that hang down from the Oculus Rift, trying to turn constantly without wrapping the wire around your neck. That was a bit of an issue. I think I got better, handling that towards the end of the Let's Play, but it's probably something I'm going to give more thought to and try and set up some system whereby the wire never hangs down below the headset. I might need to get some kind of, well, maybe a big microphone arm kind of thing that will hold the wire above my head. There is also an issue with the image size and shape. You will notice immediately that there is a black bar on the right hand side that has, well, no picture in. This is because the recording is from the left eye. That's what seems to happen with Oculus Rift games. When you record it, you record the left eye, and of course you see more on the left hand side than you do on the right hand side. That makes perfect sense. Of course, when you look at it on a flat 2D screen, it can seem a little odd. Now, I did toy with the idea of zooming in so it removed the black bar, but then you lose quite a lot of your field of view, both above, below, and to the left. I also tried moving the entire image more towards the center so it looked even, which did look good, but then the center of the screen, the thing I was actually looking at, was always off to the right, which was actually more of a distraction than the black bar. I found after I watched for about 30 seconds, the black bar kind of disappeared, so I decided to leave it in. But it's one of those things that I thought I'd mention because it is an issue with VR Let's Plays. And finally, there is the issue of the camera. It is shaky. This is something that is probably going to take a long time for the VR gaming industry to come up with a solution for, but it always looks like it's footage taken by someone with an extremely shaky hand and a handheld camera. I tried my best to hold my head as still as possible when I was not, panicking or running, but I found that when I spoke, the entire image moves as well, and I realised that's because the Oculus Rift isn't just sat on your head, it's actually firmly secured to your face. And when you talk, your entire face moves. Your cheeks, your forehead, your nose, it all moves. Not a lot, but enough that we can notice it when we're having conversations with people, and easily enough that you can see the camera move slightly when I'm talking. So if I'm reading a letter, for example, which you do quite a lot in this game, it's not as stable as I was hoping it was going to be. I did try to run a stabilization filter, and that does stabilize the image, but it has this horrible effect of making the image feel a bit mushy, like you're in a dream sequence and it's pulsing. I found it more distracting than the shakiness, so I decided against it in the end. I would just like to mention and remind you that although the footage was shaky for the viewer, myself in the VR experience did not notice any shaking. Your head is moving within the VR world and everything looks perfectly normal. It looks stable, it looks dead steady. So if you're thinking of buying virtual reality but you don't like the idea of a shaky camera, believe it or not, when you're the one playing, there is no shake. It's just when you record yourself playing, it is shaky. It's like if you had a camera strapped to the side of your head and then you moved around. It would be awful to watch afterwards, but you didn't have any problems running around. I can tell you this game caused little to no nausea. I played it for more or less 3 hours solid and came away feeling, pretty much perfectly fine. The game is, well, it reminds me of a click and point adventure, the sort of thing you'd get in the 90s. Day of the Tentacle, Monkey Island, Indiana Jones and the Fate of Atlantis. If you ever played anything like that where you would click and point on an area on the screen, your character would walk over there, you'd interact with some objects, perhaps pick something up and then go off and interact with something else. There was a lot of puzzles. This game feels like that, and it is click and point for movement, but it works really well. It doesn't make you feel nauseous, and of course because it's VR, it is a very immersive experience. Of course, the big question is, will that immersive experience transfer over to you, the viewer? And that is very much what this experiment is about, and why I've decided to release this, even though there are several technical problems with this Let's Play, several quality issues that I could definitely do better if I did it right now. I mean, if I replayed this, it would sound a lot better in my opinion. But I've decided to release it in its current form because, of course, it was a blind playthrough, so you get my honest reaction. And I want to know from you if it's the sort of thing you could imagine yourself watching, if the sound was better, if I managed to clear up some of the minor technical issues. Of course, there are games like Resident Evil 7, which I am thinking of playing, but a lot of people are saying it's so intense in virtual reality. But would it make for a good Let's Play if I did a virtual reality? I would make sure I had the best options for it, make sure the sound was good, but would it work? Is it something that you guys could follow, or is virtual reality just something that's not going to work for my viewers? So if you want to check this Let's Play out and give me feedback on what it's like as a viewing experience, I would really appreciate that, because I need to start planning whether or not this could be something on my channel. Is it a viewable experience? I mean, there are going to be downsides, the shaky camera, but is it worth it when you know that I was in virtual reality and that my reactions are going to be a lot more intense? If you watch me play this in VR, are you going to be able to picture me surrounded by this world and thus feel like it's a little more intense? These are the questions I need answering. So thank you for, putting up with this enormous ramble of a prelude, and if you decide to watch the Let's Play, thank you for helping me with this experiment. I look forward to reading your comments, and I will see you on the other side.